It's like all acupuncture points go through here, but Tibetans talked about the three main nadis and the karmic pranas entering the central nadi. It is what it activates meditation, meditative experiences, and realization. So there's a whole system, just like there is in the Taoist tradition with acupuncture. There's a whole system about how energy moves through the body. And there are the 5 root pranas: pervading, downwards expelling, upward moving, fire accompanying, and life force. And we relate the pranas to the elements of the 8th consciousness. This is all done theoretically behind the scenes and is what determines the ideal Zazen posture. So it's all this theory of how energy enters the body, affects these secret places, and activate realization. And so crossed legs and the downward expelling product. So it's about, that's why you cross your legs, not because it's just an interesting idea or it's a stable posture, but related to the Buddhist cosmology about the downward expelling prana, not prajna. So then we also, there's other parts of it, cross legs. The first point in the posture is to place one's legs in a cross-legged position. The particular purpose of sitting cross-legged is to bring up and stop the normal downward movement of the downward expelling prana and cause it to enter the central nadi. So we just are told by Zen, just do this. Or maybe they don't even give us verbal Zazen instructions in some places. They just point, say, there you go, do that. But in the Tibetan tradition, they tell you why you're sitting cross-legged. Bringing the downward expelling prana into the central channel pacifies the mental affliction of jealousy. So if you can't sit cross-legged, you can see that you're going to have to deal with jealousy. The mudra of meditative equipoise is placing one's hands in the mudra, holding them 4 finger widths below the navel, brings water from it into the central nadi, so you do not dry out. And it pacifies the mental affliction of aggression. That's why you sit with your hands in mudra. Bending the neck and the fire prana. The 4th point is to bend one's neck towards one's chest slightly, but we are told it doesn't go left, it doesn't go right, it goes back. We all know that, right? We're supposed to move the head back a little. The image of this posture is an iron hook. Bending the neck like an iron hook will cause the fire prana to enter the central nadi and will pacify desire. So this is why when we talk about Zazen as an enactment ritual, it's not just that the Buddha did this and so we're doing what he did, but there's a whole cosmology of belief about all these postures and how it affects the body and realization. It's Ayurvedic medicine, it's Taoist as well, and it's taught in other traditions. We don't learn much about it. Okay, do you have any questions for me?
Great.
Yes.
That's amazing stuff you just read.
About the
prana.
prana and then
Yeah.
postures. Yes.
Is there a way to
I think I don't think it's in Taigen's. Let's see if it's in Taigen's article on Zazen as enactment, but I do think it came from a book that I got in the Tibetan tradition.
Okay.
So if we want to look at that and copy those pages. I'm not sure it's true though, so.
Okay. Sometimes people ask when they come in, they ask questions about why we're doing these things, and that kind of explanation might be helpful. I don't know,
Yeah, I don't think it is actually. I think it involves too much of the historical context. So mainly, if people ask why are we sitting in this posture, I tell them it's stable and it's very important to keep the spine straight because there's all the nervous activity and that's regulating the function of the organs. Also, when we sit straight, the organs are each given their own space, and things tend to collapse and create stress in the body that is unnecessary. So I go with that level. So if people are sitting in a chair, they can find their relationship to keeping the spine straight. I tell people to try not to use the back of the chair because the spine and the back muscles will get stronger, you know, unless they're having some pain and so they have to lean back. And to be aware of the circulation of breath in the body. But I don't go into this.
Okay. That's, we do sort of talk about that.
Yes. Yeah.
That
And
level
it
of
depends on what people want. And
Yeah.
sometimes people can get carried away by these things too. So, other thoughts or questions? So we don't actually create sacred space. It's already there. It's like we make use of it. It's not like we create the sacred. The sacred created us. So, but we create a way to have a relationship with it so that we can interact in it. But it's already there. That's why there are religions all over the world, because the sacred already is. And we just find ways to express it that make sense to us. That's important to recognize. And the things that we do, for example, sewing this by hand, with our own hands, and putting the stitches in, imbues it with a kind of intention that we later call on. I've said that, you know, I've been in very difficult situations and put my robe on my head and felt the relief. And the same thing happened when I was in Japan in this very chaotic situation of not understanding the language of the instructions when I was in Tofukuji, and plus the way the Rinzai rituals were being done, I didn't know, and they do them really fast. I mean, our Soto enactments are slow, purposeful, and they have a certain decorum to them. And in Rinzai, it's fast and quiet. It's just fast. And it's one of the first things about it. Well, even in Japanese temples, the way they can put on their okesa and they chant the Heart Sutra so fast, like a freight train. It sounds more like an African chant when you're in Japan. And trying to join them, it's like trying to catch up to a train you're running around along one side. So when I was in Japan, I had been ordained as a priest. And it was very interesting because one of the helpers, the Western helpers, said, "Oh, don't wear your robes. Westerners look ridiculous in robes, and it's just like they're trying to imitate the monks, and they really can't. So it's better not to." But he wasn't ordained, and had invested all this energy in the ritual of ordination and the garments. And so I couldn't even figure out, I think you saw with Julie that she had a hook there for her okesa. So they would just whip out their okesas, hook them, and they would be off and running. And I finally, you know, and there I'd be standing there with my okesa. And finally the head monk caught on and said to me in Japanese, "You know that different thing you have? It's time to put it on now." He gave me warning time. And Chikamono, just that different thing you use, it's time for you to put that on now.
Before they did.
Before they did. It's like, here's the heads up, because I'm going to give them the signal, and it'll be done. In fact, this is a signal for for done. When you're eating in the Rinzai style, it's like this. So it's just off and running, it's finished. So when he said that, I was able to get my okesa on, and it just had the most wonderful impact under really difficult circumstances. Making use of these objects that we have imbued with the history and the meaning of the ancestors and our sewing teachers and that our teachers have given to us. When we use them under those circumstances, we can really feel the weight of them. So finally, kind of straighten me out. And I had a similar experience when I was going through customs because I had been reading in Dogen the Sutra to the Kesa, which, by the way, can cure disease, stave off the tax collector. I mean, he just goes on through a list in his sutra about the magic of the Kesa. And Sojin and Alan asked me to pick up a box which they said had a Kesa, and I said no problem, because I figured I'd take it out of the box. I had them ship it to my hotel room in Tokyo just before I got on the flight. I finished my travels, I didn't have to carry it around with me. And I get to my hotel room, and there's a box like this. I go, well, that's not going in my suitcase at this point after I had done a fair bit of shopping in Japan. So I said, well, I'm just going to have to carry it through customs. My son was with me. My younger son was with me. He was about 21 at the time, so he's 40 now. So anyway, it was 20 years ago. So I had this big box, and we're going through customs. And I said, well, there's cases in the box, so they can have the power to get me through customs. Because, customs, they see you're schlepping a big box. It's like, what's in it? We're going to open it and go through it and see whether there's duty on it. So I said, well, I better do zazen while I'm going through customs here and let the power of the Kesa help me through this. So I get up to the customs official, sees this big box, and he says, and I'm doing zazen. My son's behind me, he's watching the customs official. What a bad example I am. So he's watching his face. So he says, what's in the box? And I say, the Buddha's cloth.
In Japanese.
No,
Oh,
I'm
the
in
Buddha's
during
cloth.
the American
Oh,
side, so I say the Buddha's cloth, the Buddha's clothes. And my son said he gets this look on his face like, Jesus, what have I got here? It's coming through customs now. I don't even want to be bothered with it. Go through. So afterwards, through customs, I go to the other side and open the box. There's no case in there. It turned out that Matsumoto-ya had shipped me the wrong box. It's funny how we say, like, sometimes we'll, in a racist way, say, well, I can't tell Asians apart because they all look the same. Well, they can't tell our names apart. So they see an American name. It was supposed to go to Salt Lake City. Kanzion Zen Center. But, we all look alike and the names all look the same. So they sent me the box for Salt Lake City, which was a bunch of other stuff. And that's why it was so big. But I'm not recommending this. I've tried it with policemen when they pull me over for tickets, but it doesn't work every time. So it won't offer you full protection. So. But it's interesting how these sutras can affect us and how we can make use of them in times of stress. One of the things that Blanche told me when Maylie Scott was dying was that when she was having her first heart attack, she kept taking refuge all night. So all of these rituals that we practice now have a different kind of weight to us when we're in a very difficult place. Anything else? Yes?
I was just thinking about the story about Christine doing the exorcism, and Alan he doesn't do this all the time, but he does give people a ritual as an encouragement. And so one person in our Sangha was bringing up his issues with his mother, and Alan said, why don't you put her picture on the altar and bow to her every day?
Mhm.
And he and this person added some extra features, and his idea was, I'm just gonna say words that come out of my mouth with each bow, and bow to her 9 times or something, I'm gonna say words. And he did it for a long time, like maybe 3 months, 6 months or something, and then he came and did a student talk where he told us about how it transformed his relationship. So I was wondering if you could say
Right.
the ad hoc and the,
Yes, well, I think that, first of all, Alan, you made use of the symbol of the altar and how we
And the
put
bowing.
people on the altar, and yeah, we use bowing as a way of releasing and letting go all the way to the ground. We let go all the way to the bottom. So he made use of, and Alan's given teachings on the building blocks of Soto Zen rituals. What are the elements that we use? So he used traditional elements, and then the person imbued it with his own symbolic relationship with whatever those objects were, and created a transformational space in which the difficult feelings could have a space to be transformed. And so Alan is, you know, as we all know, very good at doing these rituals. So I'm sure it's something that he uses a lot in his practice.
and how did you come up, Christine, how did you decide what to do in the ritual that you did, that was the exorcism?
Well, I don't know how I decided it, but what I did was when I was approached by well, first of all, just making a presence in Kaiser, which has no spiritual culture at all. They don't understand that. To get a referral was kind of a big deal. It was like, oh, thank God, they see me wandering around here for the last 3 years. So what I did was I asked them if they had a bowl there in their nurse's lounge. So they brought me a bowl about this big. And I took it downstairs, and in front of Kaiser there's a big planters full of impatiens, you know, with pretty, so I filled it with blossoms of the impatiens. And then I went back up and I asked the charge nurse, the authority person of the day, and one of the nurses who was entering the patient rooms to come together, and we all held the bowl together, and I said a blessing over the bowl. And we added amen, because these are Christian people. And then I went around to each room and put my hand on the door frame and said, you know, may all beings be at peace, may all beings. And then I went in and I put a blossom on the sink, because every room has a sink. So everybody coming in and out of the room, all the help, because this was really for the staff.
Right.
One of the first things you do is wash your hands so that everybody would see it and know that this room had been blessed. And I put more in the storage room where they thought that the ghost was hanging out. And I put it, you know, in the doctor's chart room, on the nurse's desk, you know, in the staff bathrooms. I mean, blanketed the place with the flowers. And looking back on it, I don't think I really did a good job of closure on it. You know, except to show the nurse that the bowl was empty and, you know, tell them that, and they could see, they could see the flowers everywhere. I don't know how I came up with it. It just
So it
kinda
just
went,
came
I
into
gotta
your
do
mind.
something tangible here, they have
Yeah,
to
it's
see it.
organic,
you're
it relates to
Yeah.
the context and your understanding of building blocks of ritual.
And you're just responding to a need somehow.
Yeah, and using what you know.
And knowing that a ritual is a thing that can respond to someone's needs sometimes.
It needs to.
So the two parts were the flower, but also that they could see me standing outside each room with my hand up. And they may not have heard what I was saying, but they knew I was doing something to acknowledge.
The energy still.
Yeah.
Acknowledge what? Just acknowledge
The energies,
the energy.
that there's something going on that can't be seen.
What did you say? What did you
I said something like, I don't remember exactly, may all beings be, you know, at peace. You know,
Yeah.
may all in this room be at peace. And then entered the room, put the flower down.
Do you have an idea now what a better closure might have been for the ceremony?
Well, for me, probably, you know, a couple of bows at the end as I walked, you know, away from the
Yeah, some bells.
Yeah, something like that, which of course I didn't have a bell, I didn't really have anything. It was just really by the seat of my pants.
But, you know, the bell is another implement that expresses transitoriness. You know, it's present and then it's impermanent, but it's somewhere. It didn't just disappear. Where the sound waves go.
Yeah, and after this is when I thought, oh God, I need to have some stuff here. I did have the key to life. Well, this was
A
actually.
little kit, like a little priest
No, I
kit or
thought,
something.
I'm gonna have an image and I'm gonna have, some, a bell. I put a little bell in a box. And the funny thing about this was it was in between the time where the first chaplain, do you know what JACO is? JACO is the accreditation body of all hospitals. And so they do inspections every 3 to 5 years, whatever it is, and you damn well better pass them. And everybody gets super freaked out when JACO's coming, everybody is.
Sounds like the devil.
No,
JACO's
everything is clean and everybody knows the rules and, where's this? People are just like, ugh. So JACO at one point said, you gotta have spiritual support in your hospital. And for a long time, Kaiser had just a little binder on each nursing station that said where you could get a priest. And actually the Catholics, they're well connected, and he comes in twice a week and he has, what do you do when you do the anointing thing?
Oil, is it an oil?
You bless people. I don't know, I forget now what you call it, but they.
Well, look at me, I was
Yeah,
very
they,
Jewish.
anybody, you're Catholic, who's Catholic?
When was
You mean
this?
with holy water?
Well, they, yeah,
You sprinkle holy
I
water?
forget the name of it when they, but they empower
Bless
lay
you.
people to go in and do this. And those people are circulating several times a day.
It's like master,
Yeah,
right?
that's all they had. Okay, so JACO throws down the gauntlet, you gotta have spiritual support. So Kaiser, San Francisco, hires this pastor, this wonderful woman who let me set up a clinical when I was in the SETE chaplaincy training program. And she just kind of said, well, good luck. And she left. So I came after she had been there for about 3 months, and she left. And this was before they hired the next guy, which was Greek Orthodox. She was downplaying, plain clothing, maybe just a little necklace. He comes in with the boots and the beard and the thing. So this happened in between. When I thought, well, she's gone, but I come around. And then I did this, and I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this without any support here, because there's nobody covering my butt on this. So I don't know. I didn't come back in until he came on board. And they have nobody now. They went through 3 of these people, and they went back to the binders because they themselves don't have an understanding. The woman who heads the, not the hospice, but the palliative care, she put on a workshop one day, which I went to, about spiritual care, and she basically said, I just don't believe in religion. And we all said, but what about spiritual support? She just didn't get that they're 2 different things, even though she sat through the whole workshop, and the whole conversation was, what is at the root? Not the showy leaves, but what's at the root? She didn't get it, and that's part of why Kaiser San Francisco's got no. Until these people leave.
Well, do you think that they can really be separated, spirituality and religion?
I don't think that they are separated, but what gives the outward appearance of the religion, which helps the religion, is the
the
spiritual
essence of it.
root. Yeah, and that's,
But
That's
it's
a-
hard to do it without any flavor. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It
right, and I
it comes in a flavor. It's like you
Yeah.
don't serve food
Yeah,
that doesn't have seasoning in it,
Right.
and you can't really do spiritual ritual that has no associations with it. Yeah.
right. Well, we didn't do ritual, we did, conversation, and I only had maybe 3, I don't know what, Mary Alice out here, 3 people say to me and really pound me, what religion are you? And I would say, well, we're ecumenical service, all, we're here for your spiritual, your well-being. But what religion, what religion?
Well, I think that's a very important question,
Yeah.
because I think for some people, Buddhists are equivalent to devil worshippers.
Yeah,
And so if somebody keeps asking you that, they may be concerned about contamination, you don't need to add to their stress load right now.
And those two patients asked me to leave.
Uh-huh, there you go.
Were you wearing robes during all this?
I didn't with Elizabeth, because she was, I sort of modeled her, but when the Greek guy came in, I was in my full duds there. And, yeah, that was-
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's important that if you're offering people support, that they do know that it's coming from a Buddhist source, so that if they feel antipathy, they can take care of themselves. We want to not to trick them into thinking we're something else. Just because, for example, you were born into another tradition, but that's not the tradition you're representing. So you have to fess up and put people at ease. That's a very important point. Okay, well, we're right on schedule for 11.